Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Tom in the shop, K2BEW, building the K2. I have finished the front control panel. This is the control panel, which I was working on in the last videos, and I decided to just go ahead and I worked on it without off camera. The only thing I might do on camera is I'll do the resistance checks with you, go over the resistance checks through the board. That just kind of verifies everything's soldered correctly. I decided it was kind of redundant to show every component getting soldered to the board, and there was nothing interesting going on there. I'm going to proceed with the build and stop at interesting points where there's testing to be done and stuff like that. This is the front panel of the radio. This big square is where the LCD display would go, and then these are the buttons that are on the front panel. I've done the first 6, and I have 10 more buttons to do. 1 down here and 6 up here, 9 up here rather. So we're going to do that on camera, and this is sort of a test too, in that I am capturing this now using PowerDirector 16. And I have this newer computer, my HP computer that I reclaimed for my kids I talked about, which runs better, and with PowerDirector 16 it seems to be working well without lagging, so I think I might end up using this combination. I had tried previously using vMix and that other gaming thing, and I was only on a trial version of vMix, and I haven't bought it yet, and I may not if this works out well, because I'm only a hobbyist. I don't need professional software for capturing video. vMix is for doing multiple sources of video and mixing them together. That's why it's called vMix. It's video mixing. Well, I'm only capturing like one screenshot from one camera. I can see this on the computer, so I can see what I'm doing. So these chips here have, well, they're not really chips, they're switches, buttons, push buttons. They have 4 leads on them, and they get soldered to the board in rows of 3 at this point. I did rows of 2 before. Sorry, I'm blocking the view from you. But the spacing tool is nothing but a PCB board's piece, which is actually used later in the build to make an RF probe out of. Let me move this closer. The buttons just simply, and I'm going to be blocking this with my hand, but that's the way it goes. Let me try to move the camera a little bit. Knock it down. Hang on. This is an experiment. We only learn by doing, right? Something like that. Just trying to get more of an overhead view where I won't be blocking what I'm doing with my hand. Maybe a little adjustment on the light. So these things plug in to the board, and you put the spacer underneath it so that it's not, so they're all even, like so. So there's 1, and you put them in rows of 3. Go up a little. This camera's hanging on the top of my light that's on the boom. So when I move the camera, I'm moving a little bit of light too. So this one goes next to it. There. It never fails when I start videotaping. People want to bother me in here. I can come in here for hours on end and nobody will come in here. And I came in here and already did another short video clip, and my son walked in 5 minutes later. He never comes in here. And now I hear the phone ringing in the background. That's why I'm saying this. Wouldn't happen if I wasn't in here videotaping. I could be in here for 3 hours and nobody would come in here unless I turned on the videotape. It's like Murphy's Law. So let's make sure I got these clipped in correctly. I can see I have a pin off. The pins are pretty fragile from what it says, and Hang on. Okay. I was just checking these pins to make sure. The whole idea with this PCB board underneath is just to make sure they're straight. So I'm eyeballing it from the side and making sure they're straight. And you know, eventually a bezel gets put over the front of this thing. And the bezel, of course, will have cutouts for the knobs. So you want to make sure these are straight and the bezel fits evenly. So I'm making sure that's straight, making sure they're pressed down tight, and that's the whole idea of the spacer, so the bezel fits right when you're all done here. Now we flip her back over and we get ready to do the soldering. I'm just checking the pins, making sure I can see them all through the holes evenly, off camera of course, because I have a camera tilted, but the pins, making sure they're even, and we'll start soldering away. That's as good as we're going to get it. I'm not going to torture anyone any longer. I'm going to simply solder these buttons on and then do the rest off camera, because I have a total of 10 buttons I've got to do. This is only the first row of 3 out of the 10. So I will do these, check my work, and edit down these videos and upload them and see what happens. I'm mainly doing this to see how my capture does, which seems to be working, where I'm actually capturing my video through the software instead of videotaping it and then using the software to process it. Okay, so let's move this up. We have a higher view. Put it on auto for now. Zoom it out. Let's check our work. And what I like to do is just make sure with each of these pins that I can see solder all the way through the pin, because it's a double-sided board. We'll slide the tool out. Make sure they all look even from the side, and they basically do. And that's it. So we have the 3 switches all soldered. Going to do the other remaining switches off camera, and these are nice little clicky switches you can hear. And then we'll come back when I get to a point that's testing and more interesting than this. Eventually, when everything's on this board and it's populated, it plugs into the control board that I already did, and I think you do some testing with it with some voltages. So we'll get to the point where I'm doing some of that stuff. In the meantime, this has been an experiment and my New Year's last video of 2017 from Tom's Ham Shack K2 BEW. Talk to you soon.